this was one of the most exciting fights I've ever seen. Beat expectations, all of it. I did not think that Glover Teixeira would be able to take Jiri Prochazka's biggest shots. I mean, the guy's one of the hardest strikers ever in that light heavyweight division. 25 knockouts out of 29 wins. Pretty much speaks for itself. And I did not think that Jiri Prochazka would survive on the ground with Glover Teixeira, let alone submit the guy. In Prochazka's previous fights, his grappling never really looked that great. He attempted arm bars here and there, he scrambled here and there, reverse positions, but it was nothing like super elite compared to what Glover has done. Glover is a legit high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. Jiri Prochazka just started grappling pretty much, but the guy is so athletic, he has such a young age, he has such a great mind for the sport, he is able to pick up on things quickly. He is one of the best improvisers in that light heavyweight division. A lot of people draw comparisons to him and Tony Ferguson. He's like the light heavyweight division of Tony. Doesn't seem like he goes into a fight with a specific game plan. It's pretty much a broad approach and then just adjusts on what's going on in the fight. Becomes dangerous at every given turn. Because in that 5th round, Glover had him hurt. Glover hit him with a flush right hand as Jiri was doing that thing with his hand, that fire chakra thing, wherever he does, where he's like mentally powering up his right hand before he throws it out. In a way, it costed him of getting hurt, but at the same time, it allowed him to get on top of Glover and eventually submit him, because Glover made a huge mistake. One of the biggest mistakes we've ever seen in a championship fight. Jiri looked like he was almost out of there. It looked like Glover could have put together a couple more powerful punches and Jiri Prochazka would have been finished. Glover wins in one of the greatest light heavyweight fights of all time, but instead of trying to damage this guy even more, he pulls a guillotine in the 5th round when both guys are sweaty and bloody. And then later, Glover was able to hurt Jiri again. Tagged him clean with a left hook, but then he shoots a double leg takedown. Jiri defends it for a while, starts to recover, and Glover even got into full mounts. How many times did Glover get into full mount and Jiri survived? He got out of there. Insane. I mean, most fighters do not get out of Glover Teixeira's mount position. He's finished so many guys in that position and because of that position. Jiri found his way out of there multiple times, and in that 5th round, he just kicked off the cage and Glover seemed so exhausted and so old that he wasn't fast enough to scramble with Jiri and try to get in a better position. To the point where Jiri got into side control, Glover rolled over again, and without even the hooks, Jiri gets him with a rear naked choke. Becomes the first fighter ever to beat Glover Teixeira by submission. And get this, that was the 3rd submission in Jiri's entire career. He has not submitted someone since 2014. But it wasn't just Glover that made mistakes. Jiri made many mistakes as well. He chased the ground when he shouldn't have. With these high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artists, it's not in your best interest to chase them on the ground when you think you have them hurt. Many times. Sometimes you can finish off the fight for sure, but it's such a risk, and you saw it here as well. Jiri chased Glover down there trying to land ground and pound shots, and Glover was able to turn around and go in for the takedown, reversing the position on Jiri. But when it came to the striking, Jiri was doing so much better when he was sticking to the fundamentals, when he was sticking to the basics, when he wasn't doing anything too crazy, when he was throwing the flying knees, when he was throwing the weird angled punches and stuff like that. I mean, the uppercuts came pretty close, he just didn't have enough range when he was throwing them. All the flashy stuff really wasn't working. It was when he was sticking to the fundamentals where he was catching Glover. He could do the chakra stuff, but his form has to be tight. It has to be solid, because the straight right was mostly what he was catching Glover with. And if he was able to pump out jabs and stuff, I think this fight would have been much easier for him, to be honest. Just Glover would probably reach in for a lot more single legs, but at least Jiri would be able to expect them, because the further the fight was going, the better Jiri's takedown defense was. He defended many takedowns in this fight, and with my analysis before, I did show how he had the ability to defend many takedowns. His actual takedown defense was not as bad as many people thought it was, and his grappling has greatly evolved in such a short amount of time. Just imagine how much better he's going to get after this fight. And I'm super happy for the guy. It's kind of a bummer for Glover. I mean, nobody wants to see Glover lose, and I'm glad that he's going to continue to fight because he looked great here. Glover himself looked better than I've ever seen him, but so did Jiri Prochazka. I mean, these two guys were at the absolute top of their game and put on an instant classic. And Jiri Prochazka becomes a UFC champion in only his 3rd UFC fight. In the modern era, you don't normally see that kind of thing. So what's next for him? It has to either be Jan Blachowicz or Magomed Ankalaev, and it seems like Blachowicz is more talked about for a title shot right now. Ankalaev probably needs another win, but either fight would be excellent. I'd love to see either of these guys fight Jiri Prochazka. I think eventually though Ankalaev and Jiri are going to fight each other, so might as well right now, let's do the Jan fight. And as for Glover Teixeira, maybe he can go up against Magomed Ankalaev. So I love the card. The main event was amazing. It was funny to hear the commentators argue all night with each other. But I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Hope you guys had an amazing experience. And it's pretty late, so I'll see you guys in the next one.